Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody on YouTube watching and everybody who has joined us tonight on Zoom. Welcome to another Expert Connect. I'm Debbie Barnett, and tonight we have the pleasure of welcoming Ron Tyson to the show, a truly exceptional individual with a heart full of compassion. Ron is the founder of Bring Smiles to Seniors, a remarkable nonprofit initiative that began in 2016. This heartwarming venture is dedicated to working with organizations such as schools and civic groups who create greeting cards, which are then delivered to senior communities across the country. To date, Ron has been instrumental in delivering an astounding number of cards, bringing joy and smiles to countless seniors. In addition to his philanthropic work, Ron is also the author of Mornings with Ron, Messages to Provoke Thoughts, Inspire the Heart, and Feed the Soul, a book published in 2020 that continues to touch the lives of readers. But there's more. Ron also is an avid Mah Jongg player and tournament enthusiast. And tonight we'll have the privilege of delving into his Mah Jongg journey along with his inspiring work. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to the incredible Ron Tyson. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Debbie. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, you're so welcome. Oh, okay, Ron, I would like to know a little bit about your Mah Jongg journey before we get into Bring Smiles to Seniors, because it always has to start with Mah Jongg.
Everything starts with Mah Jongg.
Everything starts with Mah Jongg. So tell me a little bit about your journey. And of course, you're one of the select group of men who play Mah Jongg. Can you share how you got started with the game and what it means to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. It's going to be 7 years ago now. This is coming up in April. My friend Barney, who lives in New Jersey, my best friend, was down visiting, and he said, I've discovered this new game that's just changed my life, and I want to teach you the game because I think you're going to love it too, because he knows how much I love games. So he got out his tiles and he put his tiles all over the table, and I started looking at the tiles and we started talking about the rules and the game. And he left, and I put the tiles in the closet and said, forget it, I'm never going to be able to figure this out, and just left them there for a while. And then one day my interest got piqued again, not too long after that. And I had the card that was out that year, and I pulled my tiles out of the closet and I started arranging them on the table, and I started making hands, that were on the card to get myself more familiar with the tiles. And then as I started to do it more, I started getting more excited about the game and, that trying to figure out the hands and all the intricacies that were a part of it. And so I said, okay, I told Barney, I said, now I'm learning this game, but I have no one to play with. And he said, well, I have a group for you down in Florida that I'm going to hook you up with. And it turns out that there was a person who was a part of the group that was gone for the summer, and I was invited to be the part of the group as a sit-in. Now, think about this. I'm a brand new Mah Jongg player going into a group of seasoned players who play very, very fast. But they were very patient with me, and they helped me through the game. And, Judy and Bonnie and Fern and all of those people were part of the group that I was a part of. And they really made it easy for me, to become a part of Mah Jongg and to start to love the game until I went to my first tournament at Dragons on the Green that year. They happened to pick Bring Smiles to Seniors as their charity for that year, which created the beautiful, gift of Mah Jongg and Bring Smiles to Seniors for, for when they do pick our program for a charity. I think, the thing about Mah Jongg is that, it's really about the friendships. I mean, the game is great, and learning the game is great, and learning the new card is great, but spending time with the people that you care about and learn to love, I think that's just an incredible part of it. And then when you throw in the fun and the philanthropy part of it, you really get a well-rounded, game that is just so cool to be, a part of. And Dragons on the Green and Destination Mah Jongg, have been very big supporters of my program and very big supporters of me. And as everyone knows, Mah Jongg is a love-hate game. There are times when you love it and there's times when you hate it. I'm in my hate phase right now, the way I've been playing for the last 3 weeks.
What's going on? No jokers coming your way or what?
I don't even know what they are. At this point, the jokers or flowers are not my friend at the moment, but it'll turn around and I'll be back in love again. So that's the beautiful thing. It just changes all the time. So that's kind of my Mahjong journey.
So when did you start playing? I might have missed that, but what year was that?
It was about 7 years ago, which is about a year after I had started the Bring Smiles to Seniors program. So,
oh, wow.
Right about the same time there.
Okay, well, we're going to dive right into that Bring Smiles to Seniors, because I'll tell you, when I first heard about what you did, I was truly touched, totally. I want to know what the inspiration behind Bring Smiles to Seniors was. What led you to start this heartwarming initiative?
Yeah, this is this is a great story for me and a sad story for me at the same time. My grandmother was starting to get dementia, and I don't think when she started to get dementia, we really realized it at the time. I mean, there were a lot of things changing about her that if you weren't familiar with the dementia, you really didn't recognize. And my mom was pretty insistent that she lived with my mom and dad, and she was pretty insistent that she was going to take care of her, pretty much until she died. And then what happened was my grandmother got combative, and it got to the point where it was too dangerous for her and my mom to, for her to have my mom to have her at home. And so unfortunately, I had to make the decision to put her in a place where, in a senior community where she'd be cared for and she'd have the expertise to take care of her. And I had never really been in a senior community before. So when I went to visit her for the first time, I walked in and it's like I almost had chills when I walked through the door. And as I'm walking down the hall, I saw the lady that was sitting in the wheelchair with a doll, and like it was like she was holding a child. And I saw the two people that were sitting in wheelchairs that were holding hands with each other. And as I got to my grandmother's room, I noticed that my mom had decorated it beautifully. There were cards all over the room and family pictures, and it was I think it was like spring. So she had like all the spring stuff that was everywhere. And I thought, well, that's bright and cheery and that's really nice. But then as I went to leave, I noticed that there were a lot of rooms that were nothing in them. They were pretty much bare walls. And so I was talking to the nurses, and I said, what's it like for these individuals? They're in a senior community every day. And she said, well, in a lot of cases, it's very sad. People will get left, and then family doesn't come to visit anymore. They don't hear anything from the outside. They get lonely, they get depressed. And that, it's just kind of a fact of life that we deal with in senior communities. So you run the spectrum of families who are very involved to people who have no one at all. Or it may be that they're just old enough that they have no one left, at this point. So I thought, well, there has to be something I can do about this. So I just started with a simple Facebook post, and I asked for all of my friends and family to send greeting cards that I was then going to take and deliver to my grandmother's senior community. And I wanted to try to collect enough cards so that everybody in the community would get one. And it was a special day for me because the day I went to deliver the cards, my grandmother went around in the wheelchair with me, and she's the one who actually handed the cards to all the residents.
Oh, cool.
So that was just a special memory moment for me, that I got to actually, do that with her. So we did that, and we passed the cards out to the residents. And I'm like, there was such a response to this that there has to be more that I can do. And so I started by just finding some senior communities in the Tampa Bay area where I lived. And I reached out to a nonprofit, and they took a chance on us because, we were a brand new nonprofit and no one knew anything about us. And they let us deliver cards to, I think it was 4 of their nonprofit nursing homes that were in both St. Pete and in Tampa. And from there, I just continued to grow the program. And I think we're going to talk about the growth, a little more in a minute. But, I have an all volunteer staff. No one takes a salary as a part of the program. Everyone donates their time that's involved in the program. And it's just become what it is today, 8 years later, almost from when I started the program. But that was really my inspiration. And the other thing I will say is that I really believe we all go through life trying to figure out what our purpose is. And I think some people figure it out early on. Some people figure it out later in life. Some people don't ever figure it out at all. It took me into my 50s to figure out why I'm here on this earth and, the reason that I'm here. And there's no question in my mind that I was put here for Bring Smiles to Seniors. And so that's to find your life purpose at that point and know that I have as much time left, hopefully, as I do, then is a wonderful thing.
Yeah. I mean, it really just hits home so much when I think back to visiting my parents in these senior homes. And like you said, walking by rooms that have nothing. And I would ask the nurse, do these people have visitors? And she said, some of them have nobody. Some of them have family, but they like abandon them almost. They feel like, oh, they're not really with it, or they feel uncomfortable even coming into the home, and they just don't visit anymore. And they're so lonely. So, I mean, I know I can't even imagine, but these cards, just something so little like that can make that person's day so special, especially if they have dementia, because a lot of them, are not thinking at, an adult level anymore. Some of them are going backwards almost, so, it's just beautiful.
We learned a lot. We're going to talk about, some of the stories that from there, but we learned a lot about the type of things that we needed to do for certain patients in the senior communities. And you mentioned dementia patients. And one of the things that they told us was that, when you're providing cards to dementia patients, you want to have embossed or raised things on the card because they're very tactile and they want, they will like feel it and feel the raised things on the card, much more because that's part of their whole dementia process, and learning, so I learned a lot as a part of the process as well. I'm
sure. Yeah. So my next question then is, could you share some heartwarming stories or memorable moments from your experiences delivering cards to the community?
Definitely. I actually have 3 short stories that stand out in my mind every time I talk about Bring Smiles to Seniors. Before we were in all 50 states, now we used to deliver by hand. So during my lunch hour and at night and on the weekends, my friend Linda and I, who started the program with me, we were in the car with the cards, driving to the community and handing them out to the residents, by hand. And one day we went into this one residence and they were going to take us into the room to deliver the card to the lady that was in the room. And before we went in, the activities director looked at us and she said, this lady's been here for a couple of years now. Just so you know, she doesn't speak, so she won't talk to you. But you'll need to take the card out of the envelope and read it to her. And I'm not very shy on camera, but I'm really shy in person with people I don't know. So Linda did that for me. So we went to her bedside and she took the card out and she read the card to the lady that was laying there. And when she finished reading the card, the lady looked up to her and she said, "Thank you." And I thought the activities director was going to fall over because they had never heard her speak in 2 years. And they didn't even know that she could speak. But to show you the power of that card, and that message from somebody who that day reminded that senior that they were loved, that was a really, really special moment for us. And it was a special moment for the person, the activities director.
Oh my God.
There's another instance where we were in a senior community and it was something similar, but this happened to be a man in a wheelchair. And the lady who was taking us around said, the man is completely immobile. We have to feed him. We have to dress him. We have to get him in and out of the wheelchair. So, when you're done reading the card to him, we'll take the card from you and we'll make sure that it gets on his bedside. So Linda takes the card out and she reads the card to the man. And as soon as she was done reading the card, the man reached up and took it out of her hand. And they didn't see him move before. So here they thought this man who was completely immobile because of this card that was being read and given to him at that particular time, he actually reached up and took the card. And I thought, our hearts, when that kind of thing happened, it just pretty much.
It's powerful. It's pretty powerful. Oh,
yeah. God. Even talking about it today still, and this was, 7 years ago, it's still powerful. And then there was one woman, and I'll talk a little bit more in a bit about the people who are part of the program, but we had one woman from Canada, and this woman sent us cards almost every week, the most beautiful handmade cards. And, she'd have to ship them through Canadian postage, and they'd have to go through, customs and all that for us to get the cards. And I thought, gosh, she's sending these cards and paying all this money for shipping to send them to us. I have to know why. And so I reached out to her to have a conversation. And I said, I'm just curious, these cards are going to senior communities here in the United States. And I'm just curious why you're sending cards on a regular basis all the way from Canada. And she said, well, both of my sons needed corneal implants. And when they needed them, but the corneas came from donors in the United States. And so this was my way of giving back to the United States and people in the United States for taking care of my
God, that one gave me chills. I mean, they all gave me chills, but that one just gave me chills.
So that's just 3 of my special stories, as a part of that.
Francine made a comment and she said, it's all about making a connection. I mean, yes. That is so true. It's you awaken something because the soul is still there. Right. And when people are lonely, they close up. And now you've opened up and, a friend is there and a card. That's
I always say, a person who woke up that morning thinking no one remembered them, they were loved, all of a sudden now we're reminded they did matter and that they were loved by someone they didn't even know. And that's a powerful message to someone who needs that message on that particular day.
Oh, gee. Well, we need to have someone take over your legacy, because once I'm there, I need someone coming in just like you. We all think about those things. I mean, you don't know sometimes how things are going to turn out, right?
You don't. You definitely don't.
Boy. All right, well, we're going to get off of the subject, but we're going to come back to the organization in just a bit. I want to talk about your book, Mornings with Ron, which I have almost completed, but I am in the throes of Mah Jongg, which is happening, like, I can't believe, next week. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so I didn't get a chance to finish it all, but I cannot wait to get back to it. The book is filled with inspiring messages, unbelievable. And I just want to know what motivated you to write the book and what message you hope readers will take away from it. And I'm saying, anybody watching this replay, pick up this book. It is well written. It's just beautiful.
Oh, thank you. What I'm going to do, and then I'll talk a little bit about the book. Okay. I'm just going to read the forward page because this really kind of explains why I originally wrote the book. I did it as, the blog. Actually, I started as the blog for Bring Smiles to Seniors. And that eventually led to the book. So, excuse me, just drink of water quick. So this is the forward in the book. While the next minute that appears on your watch can be anything you want it to be, it is the past that often gives us the guidance we need to navigate our life path. Our life experiences and what we learn from those around us are often used as a compass for where we want our lives to go. No one person has all the answers, and the journey is different for each of us. However, there are things that we experience in our lives that can help others with their life path if only we take the time to share. That is the purpose of this book. From an early age, I loved to write. It was a passion that I never pursued as a career, but one that I hoped would one day lead me to this very moment. The messages in this book are meant to provoke thoughts, inspire the heart, and feed the soul. They are neither right nor wrong. They are simply my life experiences that I share with you in hopes that within these paragraphs, you will find something that helps you make your life all it was meant to be. I hope as you read the words in this book that you will find something that resonates in your own life. If some message within these pages helps you make your life the best that it can be, then my work is done. Happy reading. So this is the book, and it's available on Amazon as a book, and it's also available as an audio book. And as I said, I wrote the book as a part of Bring Smiles program, and it took me about 2.5 years to write the book. There's a lot of messages in the book that it's really meant to be as almost like a daily inspirational. So a lot of people read the whole book because once they start, they don't want to stop. And then some people will read each one of the message each day just for something that, to kind of get them through the day. There's a special section in the book where I talk about life lessons from my grandmother.
That was my favorite part.
Oh everybody loves that part of the book. Yeah, she unfortunately died a year after I started the Bring Smiles to Seniors program. So, she's kind of been watching over me in the program for the last 7 years. But those stories are really heartwarming and special to me. When I was growing up, I was not one of those kids who hung out with all the neighbor kids, and I wasn't out in the yard and playing sports and all of that stuff. I was actually spent all my time with my grandmother. And she would take me around town because she baked this amazing pound cake that everybody wanted. And we would go visit the sick, and we'd go visit the elderly, and, we'd go visit the shut-ins. And that was what I did. And I would do my homework, as I was in these people's houses while my grandmother was visiting them. So I got an introduction to seniors very early in my life. And I think it's why seniors had a very special place in my heart. And it was my destiny to found Bring Smiles to Seniors. And I put a lot of that into the book with the messages about her and some of the messages that I learned, over the years. And they really are meant to, to provoke thoughts. I want people to think about their own lives and, what something they may have done similar, or something that they may do in the future that'll help them get through something, on their life journey. So it was a labor of love. It was definitely a labor of love.
Yeah, I mean, there were so many little pieces of it, and I read on my Kindle, so I get to highlight the areas, which are just great. That's why I love reading on the Kindle. I mean, I like reading with a book in my hand too, but there's one part in the book when you're talking about taking risks. Of course, that part. And so I highlighted this: taking the risk that could result in us having that 30 minutes of something wonderful makes navigating those potential landmines worth it. I mean, that really said a lot to me. And then at the bottom of that page, we all deserve fulfilling and amazing lives. It is so true. Some of us get so stuck in a particular way or doing something because we're just so wrapped up in the negative stuff that's going on. And we don't realize that, we're going to deal, the negative stuff is going to be there. We can't just make it go away. There's so many things we could do to help those periods feel so much easier and easier to get through. I mean, there are so many parts of this. I just can't wait. Like I said, I can't wait to get back and finish it.
Oh, I always think of the bad parts of life, and that is life. I mean, we're going to have good times and we're going to have bad times, and I try to always think about the bad times as life lessons, because there's something in there that I learned that helps me get through something that I may go through in the future. And if I don't need it, I kind of put it away. I'm very good at compartmentalizing. I put it in a box somewhere in my head. And if I need it, I go in and pull it out and I use it, to get through. And I especially need it when I'm not getting jokers and flowers, because then that's where I really need some inspiration. To pull it out, because as some of my friends will know, when I'm losing a lot, I'm not a good loser. I try not to be a sore loser, but I'm very competitive, so it's hard.
Yeah, so you just need to go back and read a few passages in your book.
Exactly. I do sometimes. Actually, I do that. I'm like, oh, I think I need to go back and read that one
It
again.
helps. It helps. I mean, even though some of us may know these things, we may practice this stuff every day, we forget because the challenges keep coming into our lives. That's what life is all about.
Yes.
And, I always think of it in terms of, how do you get through? Matter of fact, I saved this little inspirational, if I could read it. I can't read it actually. It's too small and faded, but it's something like it's not how you it's not how often you get into the rough. It's how easily you get out of it. And they're using the golf as a metaphor there.
Right.
So it's like one of those things where you could stay in that space and dwell on it, or you could do something to make a change, even just a little teeny bit at a time. Baby
Definitely.
steps. Yeah, that's cool. Oh, love it. All right. So now we're going to head back over and talk about Bring Smiles to Seniors again. How has it grown since its inception in 2016? And do you have any upcoming projects or goals that you are excited about?
Yeah, I tell everyone that Bring Smiles to Seniors was a little dream that turned into a big reality. I never, ever in a million years thought almost 8 years into the program that we'd be delivering the cards to senior communities in all 50 states. This originally I thought was just going to be a local program that, we were going to just try to keep up, and we keep delivering cards by hand. But, there was a much bigger purpose for, this program than it staying that small. And the interesting thing was, when I started the program, I had about 8 communities in Tampa, and then I had, my grandmother's community. I think we're up to close to 800 now, across the 50 states. And, I think it was thanks to that nonprofit really in the beginning that took a chance on us, that allowed us to start delivering the cards. So the first year, and when I think back to this number, I'm like, wow, this is crazy. The first year we only delivered 7,719 cards, and today that doesn't sound like much. Back in those days when we had no money and I had to beg for cards from anywhere I could get them, 7,719 was a lot. Yeah. But then there was an evolution that really just started happening. I had a wonderful lady, Diane Hill, reach out to me. She lives in Michigan. And she said, I'd like to start an arm of your program in Michigan. And I'm like, I was new in the program, and I wasn't sure I wanted to, give up to someone else, to let someone else run a part of it. But she has been absolutely incredible and amazing. Mm-hmm. She's grown Michigan to over 100 senior communities just in Michigan alone, running the program up there. So then we continued to add more and more senior communities in the Tampa area. And then I continued to expand out to other states, mm-hmm. And the interesting thing is, it's very hard running a nonprofit, because obviously you survive on your donations. And if you're not getting donations, then, you don't have anywhere else to get money from to be able to keep the nonprofit going. There was one point in the last 8 years where my bank account got down to just under $100. All the rest of that time, the money that we need to expand and continue to expand has just showed up. And I swear my grandmother and now my dad, who passed away in December, are up there, and they figure out these ways to have these angels show up for us, to provide us the funding that we need. So we had card donations coming in because I advertised on Facebook, and that's how we grew the program for more people around the country to get to know about it. And we were getting card donations from people all over the country. And that's when I decided, these people are in other states and sending cards to us here in Florida. We really need to be giving back to their communities and the senior communities in the states where they live, which is the whole reason why I decided to go out of Florida and, go into the other states. It just kind of snowballed. We added more states, we added more states, we added more states, and we were at 50 by the time, here almost 8 years later. We also added another component that was important to the program that's run by someone who's been with me almost since the beginning, Renee, up in New Jersey, and that's our home delivery program. So in addition to cards that go to senior communities, we also have a home delivery program where cards go to people who are at home. And there's a whole group of individuals that are part of this group called Lola's Smile Bunch. They named it after my grandmother. And they write cards to these seniors that are home every month. So they'll get pages of names. It's a private group, and the family has to agree to be a part of it, or the individual has to agree to be a part of it. We don't allow addresses and all that to go, outside the people that are a part of the group. And they'll have a page, and they'll write to everybody on that page during the month. So those people will get cards on an ongoing basis, month after month after month. And then we also added another component, a Meals on Wheels component of the program, where Leanne, who is in Virginia, runs the Meals on Wheels part of the program. And we send cards to, I don't know, I think we're probably at 20 or 25 states now where we send cards to Meals on Wheels programs. And they put the cards in with the meals so that when the meals get delivered, the patient or the senior gets a card and a meal at the same time.
Wow.
A lot of these seniors,
cool.
The only person they ever see is the person who delivers their meals, right? So it just gives them a little extra there.
That is amazing.
Yeah, and we started, it's just kind of evolved. We had companies reaching out and companies wanting to be involved and have their employees write cards. And some companies give grants for their employees' volunteer hours. So, that for how many hours the employees work on the cards, they'll send us a grant of money that helps us keep the program going. And then the interesting thing is, when COVID hit, the need for our program became bigger than ever, right? Because all of these seniors were in isolation now at this point. Their families couldn't visit them. No one was coming in from the outside. And the requests for cards just kept increasing and increasing and increasing. And so while a lot of nonprofits were struggling to, keep going during COVID, we kind of thrived during the COVID period because there were so many people who needed the cards. So think about 2016, we did 7,719 cards. In 2022, we did 345,000 cards.
Oh my goodness.
On January 20th this year, we hit our millionth card, and we're now at almost 1.2 million so far this year.
Okay, I got goosies again. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. And so you collaborate with schools, civic groups, individuals. How can someone get involved and contribute to your cause if they want to?
Yeah, we have a lot of groups, civic groups and schools that decorate cards for us. We're a good outlet for students who need volunteer hours. We'll have parents reach out to us and say, can my son or daughter get volunteer hours if they do cards for your program? Absolutely. We do that. And individuals can either make cards. We have a whole network of amazing individuals across the country that make the most beautiful cards you've ever seen in your entire life. I don't see them all now because I have 3 distribution sites across the country and I don't get them here so much anymore. In the beginning of the program, I was literally sitting up till midnight processing cards, to be delivered out. But when I tell you the love that goes into these cards, and some of these people are a part of a group called Stampin' Up. That's a big organization across the country where they make cards. Some just do it because they like to do it. Some just do it because they want a way to give back. This is a way for them to participate in giving back. So there's a whole host of ways. Our website is bringsmiles2seniors.com.
And I'll put that in the show notes as well so that everybody has it.
Excellent. There's 2 private groups, and we also have a Facebook page and an Instagram page. Instagram is Bring Smiles to Seniors, and Facebook is also Bring Smiles to Seniors. And then we have 2 private groups. You just have to answer a couple of questions to join. One I mentioned earlier, that's Lola's Smile Bunch, and that's if you're interested in writing cards to seniors at home every month. That's a way to participate. Or if you're a card maker and you want to just share ideas, and people share their crafts and they share their materials. There's a Bring Smiles to Seniors card group under our Facebook page that all the card makers get together, and they kind of interact on that group, and that's where they're a part of it. And then we have individuals who they don't feel very crafty, and they just feel like they want to donate. When we were at our worst, I had 2 amazing, they're definitely angels to me, a family in Texas and an individual in Kansas City that really paved the way for us to keep going when I thought we might not make it, a couple of years ago. And I won't say their names to keep their anonymity, but they just don't realize, how special they were in being a part of this program and keeping it going. So, we are I don't have, I don't have office space, and I don't have, technology, a bunch of technology expenses, and we don't pay people. So everything we get goes right back into the program to keep the program going.
That's amazing. Good work. Well, and there are so many times that seniors are looking to volunteer their time and something to do. This is just a fabulous way to give back. So I hope, and I know you're always looking for it. You're never going to run out of or be able to say, I'm sorry, we filled the position, right?
Never.
That's not going to happen. Which is, yeah. And I started thinking about people that I know and are connected with. And this one lady who makes cards and just loves, she's a senior and she does it for a living. And they're the most beautiful cards. And I was just thinking, I need to get in touch with her to see if she would be interested in getting involved in some way. I mean, she makes I don't even know how she produces so many of them or even how she does it. I look at them and I'm blown away. And actually she's going to be at Mah Jongg this year. So I'm going to like pick her brain a little bit. Now,
I was going to say real quick, it's interesting. We have a tier, we call our card donors card angels. That's we call them. And we have a tier angel program as a part of Bring Smiles to Seniors. And you get recognized in the program when you hit 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, 25,000 and 50. I can't remember the exact numbers. I have people in the program who have done over 60,000 cards for the program.
What?
Individual.
I can't even imagine.
I know. I'm like, do you sleep?
Like, that's a lot. That's a lot of cards.
That's a lot of cards.
And these are handwritten envelopes, I'm assuming.
Yeah, they don't write on the envelopes, but some people just want to make the cards and leave them blank inside. And that's why we have people who just like to write messages. So we send them to those people to take care of them. Some people like to do the whole thing. They want to do the card and they want to write the message. And so we get those. Those are great because as soon as we get them, they go right out to the senior communities, and we don't have to, get them, done.
Right.
And one more thing I wanted to mention and how people can get involved. We're always looking to add new senior communities. So if you know anyone that, that's in a senior community, or you have a family member in a senior community, on our website, there's a senior community page that lists all of the communities that we serve today. And as we add new communities, we add them to that website. If your community isn't on that list, just reach out to us at the email address, and we're happy to get them added. I add new communities every week. So we just keep growing like that.
Wow. Even that's a great way to get involved.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And earlier we did, you gave us 3 stories. So I was going to ask you more about, the impact of these heartfelt cards, but I think that you touched on it enough, unless you wanted to add something more.
The only thing I will add is this is one thing I didn't realize was going to happen in the program. I knew I designed the program to help seniors, but I had no idea what the program was going to do for the individuals who got involved in the program. I
Okay.
can't tell you how many letters I've gotten from people saying, I was so depressed, and now because I'm part of something where I'm giving back to the community, I feel like I have a new purpose, or I've discovered my purpose that I talked about earlier. And my purpose is to be a part of this program and provide cards to the program for the seniors. I've even had people write me who said I was on the verge of suicide, and when I discovered your program and got involved and started doing cards or writing cards or being a part of that. They said it completely changed my life. And I didn't think about that piece of it when I started the program. I only thought about what it was going to do for seniors. So it's a full circle, moment here in terms of the lives that it touches for the people who are part of it.
That's pretty powerful stuff, I got to tell you. It's almost like what goes around comes around. It's like a full circle thing that goes on. And I love it. All right. Okay. So as a nonprofit founder and author, how do you balance your personal time and commitment to these meaningful endeavors with other aspects of your life? How do you tie it all together and fit it in? Because you got to play Mah Jongg.
Yeah, well,
So
yeah, we have to throw something else in there too, because I'm a nonprofit founder and author, and I also have a full-time job. So there is a lot that I have to do on a daily basis. And so, first of all, I have to say there's a lot of times where sleep is overrated. Just kind of ignore it and stay away from it.
I'm going to agree with you there. I'm right there with you. So if you want to play a little online mahjong ever in the middle of the night, maybe we need to ping each other.
Exactly. Because those nights do happen. It really is just trying to find a balance somehow. I will say the first probably 3 or 4 years of the program were the hardest, because I did most, a lot of the program. As I said earlier, I literally was sitting up till midnight prepping cards. And if they were blank, writing messages in cards or adding messages to them, because I had more cards than I had help, getting the cards out. I'm very lucky now that I have volunteers all across the country. I have 3 distribution sites, one in the West, one in the Midwest, and one in the East. Wonderful ladies who process, the cards for me as the cards come in. And, it's just, I tell everyone that my day job feeds my stomach and my nighttime job feeds my soul. And I think when you do something like that, where, it brings so much joy to you, it really just, you find the energy. You just kind of find the energy to do all that. But the one thing I've learned, and I've really learned this over the last couple of years, is that I can't feel guilty about taking time off. I can't feel guilty about going on vacation. I can't feel guilty about taking the time that I need to be energized.
You got a chapter called Me Time.
Yep, I sure do.
And that's the chapter I need to read over and over again.
Yeah, that's probably the one with the most worn pages in the book. Is my me time message that I have to go back and read.
That's a hard thing to fit in.
It is. And there are times I admit there are times when I'm just absolutely exhausted. But you find, and then all of a sudden I get a letter from someone, or I hear what happened to a senior, or someone tells me, what a card did for somebody, and then it's just re-energizes me again. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm still on my purpose. This is still while I'm here, and this is still what I'm going to continue to do. And that's why almost 8 years later, I'm still doing it. So
that's it's just a wonderful thing that you're doing, Ron. I'm so thrilled that I got to meet you at a Dragons on the Green tournament. They, not only do they have wonderful tournaments, but they really have some real special people that show up at those tournaments. I'm really glad that you and I connected. I think it's just amazing what you do. Now, if there's anybody that's watching or anybody that watches the replay, of course, they're going to be inspired, but they may want to start something of their own, or maybe they've had an idea already. What advice would you give somebody if they wanted to start a nonprofit? I know it's got to be, I'm always curious about that. How challenging is it to start a nonprofit and get involved in charitable work, on your own, not like helping another organization?
I will tell you, it is really, really hard. It is really hard.
I've heard that, but you just said really more than once.
Not that I wouldn't do it again if I had to start over again, but I will tell you in the process of starting a nonprofit, because especially when you're a small nonprofit that is not really known, you think about it. The American Cancer Society, the Leukemia, they all get tons of money because they're known. And there's a lot of people with those diseases, and they get millions and millions and millions of dollars. So when you have to compete against those organizations to try to get money to make your nonprofit to survive, you have to find money wherever you can. And that's been the beautiful thing about Mah Jongg, because, Dragons on the Green and Destination Mah Jongg have, there's times where they actually kept me alive through their tournaments and, the raffles and the tournaments when I didn't know if I was going to make it, the next day. So the first thing I would say is, if you're going to start a nonprofit, you got to be fully committed, because it's going to take a lot of your time. It's going to take a lot of your resources. When I started it, I put $10,000 of my own money into the program to get it started. So you have to be willing to give, up your own resources if you really believe in making it happen. And I have an MBA, and for me, it was hard going through the paperwork to get your nonprofit status, so you can be, you can have tax deductions for people who donate to your program, and to be tax exempt is a hard process to go through. There's a lot of paperwork involved. And the first few years of the program, you really have to be willing to give of yourself completely. And you have to be willing to give up some things in your life that you might not otherwise want to do, because it takes that kind of commitment to make it happen. And the other thing I would say is to use other people. There's a lot of people, I've talked to people who wanted to start nonprofits. I've given them information, on what I went through in getting this nonprofit started. And so you have to lean on those people that have been through it and understand the difficulties and what it requires to be able to, give you the information that you need to make it happen. But, I would say of all the things that I've done in life, this is one of the hardest things that, I think I've ever done, just because of the amount of energy and time that's required. But at the same time, it is one of the most rewarding things that I've ever done. So I have no regrets, but you definitely have to be all in.
You have to be all in. And I would imagine that all of the paperwork required, they want to make sure that these nonprofits are not being abused or misused. I'm imagining that's part of what's behind making it difficult to get it to happen.
Yeah, well, one is, you never want to lose your tax exempt status, and you never want to lose your ability for your donors to be able to claim, their donations on their income taxes. That's incredibly, it's incredibly important. And so, there's a lot of paperwork that has to get filed every year. I have to file with the state. I have to file with the Department of Agriculture in Florida. I have to file with the Department of Agriculture in Michigan. Just to be able to ask for donations, we have to be registered with the state, to do that. We have to provide them information. There's a site out there there's a couple sites we're part of, but the big one, they've changed their name recently, but it was called GuideStar. And really, GuideStar was the go-to for people to check on nonprofits to see, are they real? Are they filing their paperwork? Are they doing all the things? You get what's called the seal of transparency every year, and you can get, I think it's a silver, gold, or platinum seal of transparency. And we always get the platinum seal of transparency because it's very important to me. And you have to post your financials. You have to post everything out there. So, we're an open book in terms of people, going out there and being able to find out that we're a legitimate nonprofit. there's a lot of bad actors out there who are operating under a nonprofit name that are simply just taking money and, not doing what they say that they're doing with it.
How come they get away with it?
They don't. They eventually get caught. I mean,
Okay.
I think if you don't file, I don't remember if it's 2 or 3 years. If you don't file 2 or 3 years in a row, the IRS will shut you down. I mean, they'll take away your tax exempt status. So we have to meet all those deadlines and get everything filed every year to make sure that we stay, legitimate. And that having that platinum seal of transparency from GuideStar is really big. You go to our website, you'll see the seal like right at the bottom of the page. You don't get that seal until you submit a whole bunch of stuff, to them to review to be able to get that seal.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been it's just been a pleasure having you. I'm going to make sure that in the show notes there's the 2 Facebook groups, your website, a link to purchase your book, which I really highly recommend. Great.
Appreciate that.
Really great. And we'll get that done. And actually, I'm going to open up the floor to any questions. So I'm going to take myself out of the spotlight here and give you center view. All right. I do have a question from Francine, who says, do you ever work with schools to have students create cards for seniors?
Yes, actually we do. We did this a lot before COVID. I actually went into schools and I would speak about Bring Smiles to Seniors. I would tell the students. It was very interesting because one of the first questions that I always asked when I went into the school was, do you know what a nursing home is? Are you familiar with one? And hands would go up because inevitably, a lot of the kids, either grandparents were in the senior community or, someone in the family. The unfortunate thing about COVID is that it's not as easy to get into the schools now as it was pre-COVID. So while we still work with schools, most of it now is more, not so much the elementary schools that we used to work with, but now we're working more with like colleges and universities because in fact, we just did a partnership with, I'm going to go completely blank, this college right outside of Houston, where it's part of their curriculum, actually, where the language and English teacher made it part of the curriculum for the students to make cards. And we get hundreds of cards from them throughout the semester.
Did I just hear you right? You had a school where one of the instructors actually made it a part of his or her curriculum.
Yeah, it's actually, I just remembered, it's San Jacinto College.
So
outside of Houston.
Congratulations, you remembered. That's the most important thing.
It came to me.
Yeah, it's nice when it does, because sometimes it's like, I'm like, phew, it came to me. So that's amazing. Is it, would it be challenging to get more schools like that involved, or?
Not really challenging in the sense of getting the cards. We actually formed a partnership about, time goes by, COVID kind of wiped out the years, but I want to say two years ago with scrapbook.com. So if anybody who is into the crafting world, familiar with scrapbook.com, they have a program, a part of their organization called Cards for Kindness. And people who, all these people who buy from scrapbook.com and people who don't donate their cards to them, and then they in turn donate the cards to us. So once a quarter, they'll say, we're ready for your list. And I'll send a list of individuals that, need to get cards from them. They'll send us 10,000 cards at a time, or, how many ever I need at that particular time. And they supply all the cards to San Jacinto College for the students there who work on the cards that then write their messages and then send the cards to us.
That is phenomenal. All right, I have another question. Kim said, besides the stories you've shared, how do you know these cards are appreciated and worth what you put into them?
Ooh.
Well, that's a hard question there. That is a tough one, huh?
I get so many thank you letters from senior communities, the activities directors, the administrators, We get letters directly from seniors themselves who receive the cards. They'll write us a letter and they'll say a letter of thanks, and we can tell who the card came from. We'll make sure that letter gets back to that individual so they can see the difference that their card made. A lot of our people that are part of our home delivery program that are writing to the seniors every month, a lot of seniors write back to them and they write back and forth. They almost become like pen pals.
Pen pals.
And so they hear from the seniors firsthand, what the cards are doing for them. And then when we were delivering in person, I obviously, heard it firsthand from the seniors themselves as we were handing out the cards.
Well,
So
can you start a division, pen pals for seniors, or is there already something like that out there?
There might be somewhere out there. We tried that a couple of years ago with a group out in California.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that we'll have someone who's in a college that's part of a group, and then that person is like a junior or senior, and then they'll graduate, and then no one takes it over, and then all of a sudden it becomes a defunct group. At that point.
Yeah.
And so we tried it and we did it for a while, and then the person graduated and then it kind of fell by the wayside. So, but you could, I suppose, and that's kind of what Lois Smile Bunch is doing. A lot of them are pen pal. There's no requirement that seniors write back when they receive the cards because they get a lot of cards. So, it'd be hard for them to write everyone back, but they all get their favorites, and they'll hear from, a lot of them a lot of the time. And when we get thank yous from the communities, we try to post them on the Facebook page so that people can see the thank you that comes from the community.
Wow, that's super. Oh, okay. So there were I do have another question, but there were some comments, while you were talking, and Carol had said little miracles. And then Sina said people need to know they are seen. I just wanted to acknowledge those comments because, both of those are very true. And Marcy said, would we mail a bag of blank cards somewhere? Or I'm assuming you might be meaning, could we mail, right? Marcy? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it depends on where you live. As I mentioned earlier, we have 3 distribution sites where the blank cards or completed cards would get sent. One is in Lakeland. One is in Wisconsin, and one is in Oregon. So whichever is closest, that's where the cards would go, and they would take care of getting them distributed out, either to people who need to write messages or to the senior communities themselves. And all 3 of those addresses are on the first page of our website.
That's what I was just going to ask you. Are they there? Okay, yeah. Perfect. Okay. Are there any other questions before we wrap this up? Make sure I didn't miss anybody. Nope, I think that's it, Ron. I just want to thank you again from the bottom of my heart for being here tonight and sharing your inspirational journey and all that you do. I think it's just amazing. We need a lot more people like you in this world.
Oh, I appreciate that. And if I can, I'd just like to read the last passage in the book and leave everyone kind of with this message, because this is kind of a special message to me.
Okay, perfect. And we're going to leave with that. So once Ron is done, I'm just going to say good night and thank you so much for coming tonight to Expert Connect. And we'll see you again real soon. Go at it.
All right, so I'll leave you with this. The title of this message was "The Next Second Belongs to You." So in the few seconds that it took you to read the title of this message, something magical happened. In less than a minute, you've reached the point in your life where from this moment forward, you're facing the beginning of anything you want. Think about it. Everything that happened before you read this is in the past, and every second after contains moments that you can make whatever you want them to be. Have you wanted to do something to change your life, take up a hobby, read a book, start exercising, or just make life something different than it's been? Well, here's your chance. That's because we control our own destiny, and every second that comes next can be ordinary or extraordinary. And that alone should keep us from being afraid of the future and help us embrace it, celebrate it, and put things in place that we need to make the next parts of our life truly special. We often spend so much time beating ourselves up for what has happened that we never give ourselves the opportunity to make life different. Either that or we allow people to do the beating up for us and spend all of our time focusing on them and not what we are capable of. Our ability to navigate our lives and leave the past behind while using it as a guide for our future is what determines just how our life is going to be. I often tell my spouse as I'm going to bed at night that it's one of my favorite parts of the day. And the reason I say that is that I go to sleep closing the chapter on what is past and look forward to a new morning where I can make the next day anything I want it to be. It's not because I'm depressed and don't want to deal with the world. It's because I know that those few hours that come between dusk and dawn are going to re-energize me and give me the strength to make tomorrow mine. And as we strive to make our life ours, we must avoid our old enemy, self-doubt. It's rare that anyone can be as hard on us as we are on ourselves, and that often prevents us from moving forward. There's a powerful quote that I've heard that I like to repeat. I'm never going to say I can't do it. I'm never going to say maybe. I'm never going to say I think I can. I can and I will. And that is the mantra we all need to have to make sure that the next moments we face are those that we make our own.
I don't even want to say anything else because I want to leave everybody with those words. Beautiful. Thank you again, Ron. And good night, everybody. It's been a wonderful show tonight. See you soon.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.